So it's all to play for still.
I think so. Do you want to bet against us?
Well, good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to For the Love of Paul McGrath podcast. We're going to talk a little bit about Leicester, do a little preview about that. And we're going to talk about some good news, I suppose, for a change, and Jacob Ramsey. But before we get to all of that, I think everybody needs to just take a moment. That was a great game of football that we just watched there. Man City and Real Madrid was a great game of football, and hopefully someday we'll be in a Champions League semi-final before we kick the clogs off, Paddy, and we'll be in there. We can throw up games like that, but that was a thoroughly enjoyable game of football.
It certainly was. It was absolute madness. It was end to end. It had everything except maybe a red card, but it was good. I enjoyed it.
Penalty was just so sweet as well because I don't know. A lot of people were talking about the fact that the ref did a great job on playing advantage for Bernardo Silva's goal. Did you see that? He put the whistle up to his mouth. Didn't give any inclination that he was playing advantage. I personally think it was the opposite way. I think you have to give some sort of signal you're playing advantage if you put the whistle to your mouth.
I've no idea what you just said, but I'm just going to ask you: did you just oil your beard live on the pod?
I did, yeah. I did. My beard. I just oiled my beard live. Yeah.
How do you expect me to concentrate when you're doing things like that now?
Paddy, I'll take off the shirt one of the days and start oiling my chest in the podcast. That's how you get viewers, isn't it?
Yeah. The referee was delighted with his advantage. He sure was, and it was a great advantage. In fairness,
it was. Yeah, it was a great advantage.
Yeah. Some goal, Jesus, some goal, and the Panenka was just topped off a mad night. Like I did
conquers.
I did say it to the family at the time, this is going straight down the middle. I didn't expect a Panenka. I just expect him to put his laces through it and bash it down the middle. But Jesus, crazy stuff.
Yeah. What a set of balls. He's a player on fire at the moment, Benzema. So, it's great to watch him. Great to watch him play. Like, he's finishing the first half was just brilliant. So, just, look, great game of football. Absolutely great game of football. And I hope the Villarreal and Liverpool plays out just as well tomorrow because... it's nice to have meaningful midweek football like that and for us not to be involved and be disappointed. Although at some stage we will be involved, hopefully, fingers crossed. And we would be disappointed if we didn't, if we aren't there at some stage within our lifetime. I've got some good news. My comments are back, so I can start flogging through comments again. And I'm Rod. Thanks so much again. Thanks for your super chat. I really appreciate it. Rod says, thanks for doing these. Hopefully this will be us in a few seasons. It was a great game. It absolutely was. Brilliant. Neil, absolutely brilliant. Beard oiling on camera. Oh, where's that Conta?
He just took it back.
Yeah, that's the next thing to do. Yeah, I'm going to give people tips on how to grow their beard grey as well, because I'm really good at that. Anyway, my beard, I'll be honest with you, the biggest tip is follow Aston Villa. That's how you grow your beard grey very quickly. Because Paddy, you had the absolute privilege of being in Filbert Street or the Walker Stadium, or what's it called?
I walked down Filbert Street.
Yeah,
which is a short walk away. Yeah.
Paddy, talk to us a small bit about that before we get into the game. What's the stadium like? What was the travel like? Is it easy to get to?
Very, very easy to get to from the airport. So we went early. We actually got the earlier train than we were expecting to get, which was grand because there was even too many people on the earlier train. So it was nice and easy to get in and out of Leicester anyway. And it was about a 2-kilometer walk from the train station with a couple of pit stops along the way into the away watering holes. And we got up there early enough and had a look around. It's the epitome of a soulless bowl. It's exactly the same all the way around the stadium. Nothing to write home about. Lovely tribute outside to Vichai. There's a statue on the corner. I've no idea if that's where the helicopter came down or not, but there's a lovely statue there for them with giving a thumbs up. So, um, it's a great little ground. It was noisy for a few minutes, but Leicester, very very poor crowd, very family crowd. I thought an awful lot of young people there, an awful lot of older people there, which I wasn't expecting, because I know when they come to Villa Park, they're loud and they're boisterous, but it was quite enough on Saturday. A few questionable tunes they were playing in the background as well, so it had a bit of everything. And then we got to the football and we all fell asleep.
Yeah, but look, I suppose just touching on that, it's kind of wholesome to see a family event like that. I suppose maybe it could have been a lot of reasons later on in the season. A lot of people probably could be
Yeah,
clapped out from cash from traveling back and forth to Eindhoven, over the last couple of weeks and whatever,
absolutely. Yeah. And
But
I have to say, to a person that we met, they were absolutely lovely people.
mm,
It was obviously quite obvious we were Villa fans, even though we weren't wearing colours. But they gave us a great welcome, and we did to the hotel across the road for a last stop on the way up. And your man said, "Are you Villa fans?" "Yeah, I'll go down the other end of the bar." And there was no queue at that end of the bar. There was no queue for Villa fans, but you were queuing for the Leicester fans, which was a bit
mm.
bizarre. And I bumped into Barry Robertson, who listens and
Yeah,
watches the
Barry,
podcast
yeah.
regularly, in that hotel, and we had a chat and a catch up. I met a good few people who interact with the podcast. We had a good laugh throughout the day and met some lovely people in the airport on the way home as well. So it was good. It was a good day out. As I said, apart from the football, because the one thing you want to do when you go to football is watch goals and celebrate, and we
Mm.
got no chance to do that. So that's the only disappointing part of the day.
Yeah, it was one for the purists, I think. All right. Aston Villa certainly didn't come to pass the ball, and if they did, they didn't come to pass the ball to each other. I think that's fair to say. Leicester came to do nothing but pass the ball to each other and not attack. So
Yeah,
Leicester were in pure conservation mode from the point of view of, they didn't have many attacks. I think they had only 4 shots in the whole game. Emi Martinez had only 1 or 2 saves to make from memory. We owned the ball in attack from the point of view of we had 11 shots within the game, and we actually had some really good defensive statistics, with tackles made, successful tackles, pressure rates and stuff like that were pretty good in the game. And that's why I say it's probably one for the purists, because, to go away from home and just be solid, I think, is potentially what this team needed. We just needed to be solid in the game from minute 0, minute 1, or whatever you want to call it, to 95, and not really make a balls of anything. And we didn't really we didn't make many mistakes, but we looked like a team who were playing not to make mistakes as opposed to try and force an issue, I think.
well, that's exactly it. It was the tale of two teams. One team went out not to get injured, and the other team went out not to lose. And they both achieved what they set out to do by the looks of it. Like aside from Bailey's chance, I think that was probably the most clear cut of the lot.
The early
Um,
one was a bad miss.
It was a bad miss. There's a lot of love in there for the comments for JJ. I think if JJ had found himself in that position, we'd have been 1-0 up, but unfortunately not.
Yeah, that's the look. I think I've been doing a lot of watching back of games. I was doing it for my Stephen Gerrard piece that I did, and to be honest with you, that was 1 hour and 10 minutes. You could have spoke for about 4 hours, and that, you kind of get to a point where you're going, right, this is way too long now. I need to wrap it up, and then you're going through games and you're basically just mentioning who came off the bench. That's what I was doing for a finish. But I think what we've kind of sorely lacked an awful lot this season is a change of type of striker. And what I mean by that is that Ollie Watkins ran himself ragged in this game, ran everywhere, chasing lost causes, running into the channels, chasing around defenders. And that's all well and good. But, there comes time when, and look, I know, don't adjust your sets because you are watching for the Love of Paul McGrath podcast, and it is coming out of my mouth. But Ashley Young was positionally, like, he was my man of match in the game, first of all, spoiler alert. But like, positionally, he was very good. And what I liked from him was deep crossing. We saw 1 or 2 deep crosses again, which I'm a big fan of. But no matter what we were going to do, Sancho was just going to open his mouth and swallow the ball, the second it came in
Yeah.
there. And that's like it's not a knock on Ollie Watkins, because you can only do what you can do. Like, I'm 5'8" at a push, 5'9" at a push. As I've said, I'm never going to give out to anybody for not being big 6'4" strapping man like Sancho. But it's I don't know what it is. It just kind of shows that, look, we've got great squad depth, but we're very samey, and I think this game amongst all games showed it, because we could have taken Leicester, with some of those chances we created. Like, I don't talk an awful lot about XG, because I think it's a fallible metric, if that makes sense. Yeah, it's a relevant metric, but it's a fallible. You can pick holes in it very easily. I know I think a stats perform have a new XG calculation, which I would say would be the norm of next year. Looking at it, it takes into account a lot more things like defensive positions and goalkeeper positions, whereas the majority of the XG at the moment is calculated without that. But we had a 1.16 XG in comparison to their 0.3 XG, and like, we should really have scored. We should really have scored when we look at some of the chances that were there. I'm trying to find Leon Bailey's. Like, Leon Bailey had a 0.51 XG chance to score with that cross that came through to him. We could have got. What I'm trying to say here is we could have scored. We could have scored. And I think, we can change the midfield all we want during the middle of games, and we should be making at least one, if not two, substitutions in midfield every game, because our midfield has never been solid. But to be able to bring on a completely different prospect up front, I think is something we've missed all year, because Ings and Watkins can be very samey when we bring them on. But that's a complete aside. And I think it showed up in this game, because we had all the endeavour and we had all the running, and Watkins had a couple of chances. But maybe if we had a big guy to stick his arse into a centre half, hold up the ball, and allow Coutinho run in to get onto it a small bit more, or JJ, as you mentioned there, or Bailey, because everybody's running at full pelt and everyone's kind of getting in each other's way when we're trying to counter attack at pace. Whereas we should, if we had a bigger guy who could hold the ball, we might be able to counter attack at a more manageable pace. Like you saw City today, when City were attacking, yes, they did some counter attacks, but it was always their attack was on their terms. And when you're counter attacking, sometimes it's not in your terms. You're at the mercy of, if this is too slow, everybody files back. If this is too fast, I don't have enough people behind me, or I don't have enough support with me. So counter-attacking needs to be absolutely, absolutely perfect at times. And I just don't think we're there yet to be able to do that.
No. Look, there's a lot missing. There's a lot. That's a whole nother podcast for when we get to the end of the season. But I thought Gerrard was fairly honest in his synopsis, and I think it was justified in us saying that he went out for a draw and stopped the rot. But to come out and say that Watkins was unplayable. He was unplayable when he was out on the wing, maybe picking up the ball. He's not. That's not where we want him picking up the ball. And we were just bereft of any ideas in the final third. I thought we did get a couple of chances, but that was just from Leicester being pedestrian rather than us being good. The Bailey was poor, Coutinho was poor. Douglas Luiz had a quiet game, didn't have a whole pile to do, didn't do a whole lot wrong. Young Tim came on, got a run, brilliant. I have to back you up there, and actually Young, because you've probably gone more in on him than I have, but it was definitely one of his better games, and that was more due to the fact that we were set out not to lose the game, and he stayed at home, and there wasn't too many marauding runs and getting cut out, with balls over the top or slide rule passes that were keeping him out of the game. So he just had a solid left back game. He didn't do anything special, and some games you just need that.
You mentioned Douglas Luiz there, and I think Douglas Luiz is an unsung hero of this game. People are going to criticize me probably for saying that. He had our second highest pass success rate at 86, if I'm not mistaken. But that's all relative. I think he had the second highest amount of passes as well of people in our team. But what I liked from Douglas Luiz was his position was an awful lot further back. It's like as if he did what he was told, for want of a better word, because he was back in that Nakamba position. And he was closer to his two centre halves an awful lot.
Yeah.
Yes, there were times when he had gone on a kamikaze run. I actually made reference to it that our midfield was a bit kamikaze at points, but it was interesting when I look back at it afterwards, and when I was looking at I won't name the. But I was looking at who scored first of all, but I won't name the other software that I have, just because there's loads of them out there, and I don't want to go naming everyone. Anyway, the scouting software, but Douglas Luiz, when you map out his average position, he was a lot closer to two centre halves. And to be honest with you, 0-0 with Douglas Luiz and with us having an actual defensive midfielder in there, just it just seems like somebody is kind of watching the games now and doing something about it. Whether Douglas Luiz is now doing what he's told, or whether Gerrard has decided to ditch the flat midfield three, I don't know. And I don't really care as long as we continue to see that for the foreseeable within the game. And like a lot of people are jumping in Gerrard's back, and that's cool. As I said, I'm going to continue to say it's not my job to convince you Gerrard is good or bad, because I don't know if he's good or bad yet. If you think he's bad, that's fine. But I haven't taken a position on what he is yet. All I can do is go from game to game and say we were set up correctly in this game. This game, I think it might have been a player problem, and I think that's what we're going to continue to do for the rest of the season until we get into next season. It's not fence sitting or anything like that, because I just don't know. When we've played well, you could say that Gerrard's a genius. Like the Leeds game, the Southampton game, like they were just brilliant games, but we're inconsistent.
Yeah,
we're inconsistent, and I think there's a lot of blame to go around between both players and setup there as well. And I did catalog a lot of it in that Gerrard piece. But Douglas Luiz for me, I thought was pretty good. I thought he would be my second best. For me, I thought he was the most improved. Ashley Young was the most improved because he's gone to man of match based on what I think of him. But I think Douglas Luiz, I was pretty happy with what he did. He wasn't spectacular by any means, but I just think his positioning, I went excellent. I like what I've seen there from his position.
Yeah. And look, I'll say before and I'll say it again, there's an awful lot of people going all in on Douglas Luiz, a man who's always given 100%. He's playing out of position. He's doing a job for us. I just don't buy into the nailing him to the wall for it, because he to me, he's a player playing out of position and doing well where he is. If you're playing out of position, it's very hard to hold your position. It's very hard to learn a new position in any sport that you're involved in. So, although he's been there a long time and playing in that position, it just doesn't come naturally to him.
Yeah. And I think he wants to go forward. I think he does want to go forward. I think it's nice, natural. And look, at the end of the day, if you're a professional, you should be able to stay back. It's not under 14s or under 16s anymore where everybody wants to go up and get their goal. You should be able to stay back. You should be able to hold that position.
Yeah. But look, we're a fickle enough bunch, and we're entitled to that.
Yeah, of course.
I remember not so long ago when Dean Smith was in charge, people booing Nakamba, and Nakamba came back to a hero's welcome on Saturday. I honestly could not get over the reception he got when he came on, and after the match, all he did was sing Nakamba's name for about 5 minutes. I think he stood there in front of them in disbelief by himself when the game was over. And look, we need him back. We needed that. It's probably a bit too late to do any kind of pushing on up the table. The table honestly doesn't really matter now at this stage. I'd just like to see a few performances and a few decent results over what we have left.
It was interesting. I won't even say the post match. There was so many kind of quotes that kind of came out from it, but I think one that was really interesting was number one, that Nakamba was mentioned. Nice to see him back. I think we might see him at the weekend, Paddy, when the two of us are over in Villa Park.
I think so.
Also, the big one for me was like Steven Gerrard name checked young Tim again, and he came on before Nakamba, in this game. And he came on before Carney Chukwuemeka, so he came on before, I can't remember, was Sanson on the bench. No, he wasn't, because he was injured. But like, he came on before players that you would have expected maybe to get minutes before him. And, we need to win this at the weekend, obviously. We realistically, we need to win every game, to finish where we want to finish, or at least as high as we possibly can. But I think we need to win this game at the weekend to just put to bed any murmurings of, you know,
Oh yeah. Well, look,
we're
it's
not
just
getting relegated like not in the hope of hell. Like I still think
no.
we're going to get 9 points, from our 10 points I think it was from the end of the season. But I like to live on my rainbow with my sparkly unicorns and positivity land. But that's just me. But
And look,
I think this
there's a
weekend,
few media outlets that are just happy to put us in that mix
yeah,
just to make it look a
yeah.
bit better.
We
But
heard
realistic,
an Irish radio here as well. Like they were seriously talking that Everton are deep in danger, but they could pull out of it because they're a historic team. But Aston Villa could be in trouble, you know. And you're kind of going, what? You know, we're 8 points ahead of them. You know,
yeah.
8 points ahead of Everton. How are they going to pull out of it because they're historic? But we might be in trouble. You know, it's a talking point, I think. But it's that's all it is for me, is a talking point.
That's all it is, and there's absolutely no way we're going down because, as you say, 10 points. I think we're going to cause one upset in that title race. Who it's going to be against, I don't know, but we're going to get something out of Liverpool and Man City. I think we've got that one performance left in us to really up our game, and hopefully, like when you think of it, we had a great game against Man City before Christmas in one of Gerrard's first games, so there's no reason why we can't do that again.
Yeah. Like Nathan, I'm not calling you out or anything here because you're regularly on the thing. But if we lose to Burnley twice in Norwich, then we deserve to go down. But we're not going to lose to Burnley twice into Norwich. If we lose to Burnley twice and we lose to Norwich, there'll be a completely different talking point.
Well, the
I
moral of
might,
the
I
moral of
might
the story.
actually oil my chest live on the podcast if we do that.
But we could still lose to Burnley twice and Norwich, but we're still not going down. It's
We're
just have enough point.
like contextually, like if we were to say, oh, that's your point. Sorry, I picked it up. I picked you up completely correctly, Nathan. So your point is that we're not going to lose them, but like we're going through shit time, but we're not that shit, like, you know. And I don't mean that in badness to Burnley or to Norwich, but like we're going to pick up points between now and the end of the season. We were way worse than this in 2019, and we picked up wins and points when we didn't expect to. We're going to meet teams that are on the beach as well, you know. And arguably, what do Norwich have to play for coming to Villa Park at the weekend?
Well,
Other than Dean Smith,
you would hope they'd play for their manager, who's going to be there next season regardless. So a lot of these players will want to stick around and be part of that. So you would hope they would. But look, you say, you know, we've to play teams that are on the beach. We have to play Palace who are on the beach. For the last 4 weeks, we've been on the beach, according to most teams, and all the teams around us won. So everything looks a lot less rosy than it did 4 weeks ago when we went on that run of losing or it's not even 4 weeks, it's 6 weeks because we did a couple of weeks break.
That's the thing. Like, we are streaky, you know, and I know you can't depend on anything that's streaky. But at the end of the day, like we've proven we can, like that point at the weekend probably is more of a settling point than anything else, because we haven't drawn an awful lot of games. Like, I'd be hypocritical if I was here banging the table going, Villa shit, and kicking things around the place, because I've been screaming about, lads, let's turn losses into draws. That's what I've been screaming for recently. You know, so to get a draw away from home, I think is good. And look, like I'd be very disappointed if we didn't win at the weekend. And that's no slight on Norwich, but Norwich are where they are because of they don't have a good team. I like Dean Smith as a manager, and I think when I looked at it, he's won more points since he's come into Norwich than Norwich had previously. So he's done a better job than the previous manager. But and I think he'll do a superb job next week or next year for them. But you know, I like the quality we have in our team. We should be winning this game, hands down. Should be winning this game and winning it comfortably. And that's not being cocky. I hope it doesn't go across as cocky. I think
it's one of those ones where if you're not cocky about the team that's bottom of the league and bottom of the league for a good reason, I think there's something wrong. If we can't get up for this, I'm sure the Villa players will want. There might be a couple of them that were maybe a bit on the fringe or didn't get on with Dean Smith, and they'll be up for it as well. So, it's gonna be a strange old game. There's a lovely I don't know whether you've seen it. There's a lovely flag going around that they've made for Dean Smith to welcome him back, which I think is only appropriate because he never got a chance to say goodbye. So
yeah,
he'll be fondly he'll be fondly remembered in my heart anyway. That's for sure, for getting us back to the promised land and keeping us there. So I've no badness towards Dean Smith or Norwich, but we definitely should be beating them and should be beating them well.
Just an aside, and I'm going to get some comments in a moment. I'm going to go read down through a couple of them now that I have the functionality back again. But since Stephen Gerrard took over in week 12 of the season, we have accumulated enough. So if the league had only started in week 12 up to here, we would be on 27 points. We would be in 11th position. We would have a +2 goal difference. We'd have 8 wins, 3 draws, 10 losses. Below us would be Leicester, Southampton, Brighton, Burnley, Crystal Palace, Leeds, Norwich, Everton, and Watford in that order. And above us would be Brentford, West Ham, Wolves, Man United, Newcastle, Chelsea, Arsenal, Spurs, Liverpool, Man City. So just to kind of take a full 360 panoramic view of where we are with Stephen Gerrard. We're amazingly streaky. That's 100%. Like, there's no doubt in my mind about that. We've gone through a crappy streak at the moment. But 11th position was where we finished last season, and we will be coming in on par with 11th position based on since Stephen Gerrard took over. Is it good enough? I think it is. I think 11th position would be like at the start of the season. I would have gone, no way. If we're not booking tickets to Estonia for some Europa Conference game, I'm going to spit my dummy out. But I think now, based on what we know, if someone gave us 11th position now, I think we'd be delighted. It wouldn't show progress that Christian Purslow and Johan Lange did say they wanted, but I think it would show some sort of rallying effect from where we are at the moment if we're to finish there. And that's look, you got to play the hands you're dealt. You got to change your expectations mid-season. Otherwise, what's the point in watching the matches? But so I would change my expectation. I think 11th would be good based on where we are at the moment. It would be a good finish to the season.
Yeah, I just can't see it. I think those around us will get a few more points as well, and we'll probably finish maybe one place higher than where we are. That's just how I see it. I'm not feeling the confidence just right now. We have a good run of games, but we're playing Burnley twice, which are in the shit. So I don't know what you're going to expect from them. We've got to play the two teams that are fighting it out at the top to win the league. So there's a whole lot of football ahead. Would we get 10 points out of it? I don't know. I'm not overly confident, but I'm pretty sure we'll get 3 points at the weekend. And for the moment, that's my only focus.
Yeah, I think I tend to agree. I hope. Look, I'm going to be in attendance. I fucking really hope we get 3 points. Because I plan on being extremely hungover the next day, and I don't think I could do with hangover and despair at the same time. Yeah. So it's going to be a game we're all looking forward to. I think it's one of those games that we feel we should win, and I think if we go out and if Aston Villa play like Aston Villa should play, we should win that game, if that makes sense. Because it's one that we would have marked off as a game that we should win. I think I think at the start of the season. I'm just looking for something here, Paddy. If you could just fill for a moment, and we're going to be very honest. We don't have any producing notes here between us. Oh, actually, before I do that, what I wanted to say as well was it's gone completely in my head now. After all that, yes, let's talk about Jacob Ramsey before we get to the comments there. Let's talk about Jacob Ramsey. 5-year contract. I think it's really great. I watched the club did a great piece on Aaron Ramsey in Cheltenham Town, discussing it with his manager, with Duff, the manager, and with Aaron Ramsey about his time there. And I think it's just nice to kind of see those two kind of serendipitous things, because you could see that the younger Ramsey was very complimentary of his brother. You could see they got on well. You could see that he does look up to him, and he does see him as a barometer. And I'm just going to get my piece out there, and I'm going to say, if there's players in this club that think that there isn't a pathway there for young players, Well, then just listen to those two brothers talking about each other, and just look at what's happened to Jacob Ramsey getting a 5-year contract. And Tim has gotten a contract recently as well. So, there is a pathway there for longevity within the club. We want to keep our players around. Cameron Archer is another one. So, they're all exciting pieces. And I think the fact that we're signing these young players to deals means that we're not going to go out and buy prodigious 18, 19, 20-year-olds to stack our squad with those. I think that allows us the leeway to go away and buy maybe a 28, 29, 30-year-old player to come in and bring that bit of experience, buy in experience, as opposed to get experience through matches, I think is fair to say. But Jacob Ramsey, Paddy, must be like best news we've had in a while.
Oh, it is. As we found out before, the contracts aren't worth an awful lot, but at least what it does assure us is he's in the plans, and if he is going to be sold, we are going to get an astronomical fee for him. So, first off, I'm absolutely delighted for him. Absolutely delighted, because he obviously loves the club. To have his two brothers there with him, coming up behind him, we could be making history with those three brothers, because Aaron is very highly thought of. And the younger guy, who's apparently the better of the three, who his name always escapes me.
Someone's after calling him TJ there at National Treasure Explorers is after calling him TJ. I can never remember his name either. Can somebody please tell us the youngest Ramsey brother's name?
Yeah, I honestly, I always forget it, and then it goes out of my mind for 6 months where you're not talking about it, and then he's back in the limelight again. But look, they're a good sport. I think their father was a champion boxer as well. There's a lot going on in that family since they were kids, and they've played all sorts of sports. But look, he's been probably, well, he's definitely our young player of the year. He's been the one shining light of everything that we've tried to do with that youth team. He is the shining light for Louis Barry. He's the shining light for Carney Chukwuemeka. All these guys who are looking for a pathway, have a look there. See, if you put your head down, if you get your head in the game, if you keep your head out of your arse, you're going to be in and around that first team. So good luck to him. I think it's an amazing statement to give him that kind of contract at that age. So he's definitely a mainstay in the team. He's definitely part of Dean Smith's plans going forward. And let's face it, it's probably that 8 position we're blessed with the few that we have there. That's probably not where we're going to be looking to get players out of in the summer to come in and fill gaps.
Yeah, and look, it's been said a couple of times before, but you lose a homegrown talent, and then another one just kind of comes along, and it's been an up and down season for the club, but some of his goals have just been majestic. The one against Arsenal, the guys are talking about it here, in the chat. Goal against Arsenal was a banger. Goal against West Ham was on a postage stamp in the top corner as well. 2 goals against Leeds were well taken, and he murdered Kasper Schmeichel as well. Thoughts and prayers with his family. So he's had quite an eventful season, and he hasn't looked out of place. And there was times when people were talking about maybe him being a bolter for the England squad. Now those days are not. That's not happening, like, obviously, but he's been capped for the England under 21s, England under 20s, and he's risen this season, and hopefully we see that from the other players that may be coming up through the ranks with Aston Villa as well. Cole Ramsey is the other one.
Yeah,
Cole Ramsey. Thanks to Rod. Thanks to National Treasure. And
Cole Ramsey, who's just 14 or 15, so yeah. He's a big future ahead of him.
Let's go into some of the comments there, because I've completely lost my train of thought. Reading some of them there. Rod Humble says it won't happen, but Buendia absolutely deserves to start. I thought he played really well when he came in. Against Leicester. Yeah. And I thought, there's a couple of games in a row. So he played a couple of games and he was consistently going off injured and limping. And Jared was saying, he kept on, Jared's exact words were, he got a kick in the leg about 3 weeks ago. And he keeps on getting kicked in the same place again. And then remember, he fell over and he hurt his shoulder as well. And he was always playing with little niggly bits and pieces. And he's had a bit of a rest since then. And now when he's coming on those cameo roles, he's playing well. He's been a very good metronome. He's holding on to the ball. His passing rate looks good. I didn't look at what his statistics were. but his passing rate looks good. For those of you who are keeping score, Jacob Ramsey had our highest pass accuracy at 90% at the weekend. So that's worth a 5-year contract based on the fact that the majority of everybody else was on 67 and 68% passing accuracy. But I thought Buendia was very good, and I think that maybe start him against his old team and see what happens at the weekend. I think that might be something we might see, because I can't see Bailey getting another run of it, because Gerrard looked like he was visibly critical of him on the sideline.
And I think what this will come down to is whether we play two up top or two in behind one striker. I think if we play two in behind one striker, it'll have to be Buendia.
Yeah. If we go 2-10s, that's going to be one that's going to need discussion. I think before the game, when we hear what the announced team is, that if we go 2-9s or 2-10s, it could be one of those games. Nice sunny day in Villa Park. I think 2-10s might be the way to go against this Norwich team, as opposed to 2-9s. But look, as I say, that we have a whole podcast to do, and that we'll be coming back again tomorrow to do our preview podcast. And just for anybody who's out there, we most likely won't have a team sheet tantrum, because none of us will be back in podcasting HQ to be able to run the show. So we may not have a team sheet tantrum. Well, at this moment in time, we won't have a team sheet tantrum unless something changes. But we will be back tomorrow with a preview.
Plus, we're more than likely going to be drunk, so it's not a good look.
More than we will be, Paddy.
Half drunk anyway.
Yeah, I make my apologies now to everybody. Scott, you make a good point here. McGinn was poor, I thought, the weekend. He did bits, he did bits and pieces okay. His passing was dreadful. His passing was just really, really poor. I think, and it was one where he was off it. And when we talk about playing 2-10s, I just love to see him giving a go there. He's never been like Douglas Luiz has been given a goal in the 8th position twice this season. He's played really, really well. McGinn has not been given a goal in the 10 position, and it looks like maybe we just need to shuffle the deck a small bit to try and see where our best players play, because McGinn isn't a bad player. He's not become a bad player overnight. It looks like he's been basically just handed the mop bucket and said, try and do everything here. And he looked like that was the case at the weekend. His passing was poor, and he was just running around the place, really. His energy was what was being used at the weekend. And what do you make of that, Paddy? What do you make
the one thing I will say in his defence, and you all know that I love John McGinn, Tielemans, Dewsbury Hall around him didn't give him a whole pile of time. It seemed every time one of our midfielders picked up the ball, there was two guys around them. So their system was good in that way. It was they didn't press high. They pressed in that area, and just were happy to stifle the midfield and try and force them into mistakes. And that seems to be what happened, especially in the case of McGinn.
Where else are we there? Yeah, so Dean says, Dougie, 90% being in the wrong position. It is a Villa thing to buy players and try to change their game, or not play to their strengths, shoot ourselves in the foot. There was an article on, I think it was, I can't remember what site it was, but I remember thinking it was a semi-reputable site. It was really bigging up Douglas Luiz as being one of the transfer fines that Aston Villa had, considering it was a 15 million purchase, and now he's worth millions more, and he's had to kind of dig in different positions. And I suppose it's interesting when a non-Aston Villa fan writes an article on one of our players, and maybe they're looking at it with a small bit more clarity, or maybe they're not looking at it with any clarity and just looking at the price tag and the fact that he's now become a Brazilian international. But it was an interesting read, and at the start I almost scoffed at it, and then when I read it now, and there's one or two points in here that you do forget the context of it. That yes, he was like 15 million is a steal for a player like him, I think, because I genuinely don't think he's a 6, but then again, he's had to play an awful lot as a 6. But we remember back 2019, and we all harken back to it, and you're only as good as your last game. But in 2019, he was an absolutely majestic defensive midfielder, whatever. Maybe he wasn't being played predominantly in that 6 position, but at the end of the season, he was absolutely brilliant. He was one of the biggest reasons we stayed up, and he nearly won our player of the season because of it.
I won't have a bad word said against him. We could very easily see him go out the door in the summer. and there's a fairly long list behind them of who could go out, and I guarantee you there's going to be a couple that surprise us that go out the door, maybe that are starting at the moment. So it just depends on what the manager decides. But I will never forget that performance. When you look at those games, Arsenal, Everton, he was just brilliant. He was absolutely brilliant.
Scott again says, what's Aston Villa's record against Dean Smith's teams? If I remember correctly, it's awful. It was awful when we played in the championship, and it was the Brentford, that Brentford team.
I think that's just our record against Brentford, full stop.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Dean Smith doesn't have a Neil Maupay in this team. He doesn't have the caliber of player that Brentford would have. But he's a good manager, and he's gotten results against teams that he's not expected to get results, and he can get teams up for games. So we won't sleep on Dean Smith, and hopefully Smith does us a favor in the knowledge that they're down. Maybe he gives us the win to propel us up the league. I think it'll be bittersweet for him either way.
Yeah, I think the bad thing about Sunday or Saturday is, should Burnley lose and we beat Norwich, that's them gone. That's them relegated. Although theoretically,
Burnley?
No, Norwich.
No, that's Norwich.
Yeah, Norwich will be relegated should we beat them and Burnley win. So that would be a pity.
Yeah. Oh, sorry. Yeah, you said Burnley win the second time. Yeah, because you said Burnley lose. I was going, how are Burnley losing? No. Yeah. That does make sense. Where are we there? So Cole Ramsey, just going down through some of the comments there. Yeah. Paddy. Yeah. To be honest with you, there's a bit there wasn't really much to talk about in this Leicester game. I think it was more, but I think this Leicester game really kind of feels like a kind of a sigh of relief in a way for me that we're not in complete free fall, and that allows us to try and reset a few things. I fully expect to see Nakamba in the team at the weekend. I think we could potentially see Tim in there, or we could see Nakamba start and Tim come on at some stage. I would love to see McGinn push forward maybe into a 10 role. If Buendia doesn't start, maybe even you drop Coutinho. He was quiet again the weekend. Didn't really get much space. Was quiet again. I think he's going to have a field day against Norwich, but then again, you can't just pick and choose when you show up either. So it's going to be really interesting, and I'm kind of disappointed we're not doing a team sheet tantrum, because I think we might finally get those changes. We
could do. Look at just to finish up on Leicester. I came out of the stadium disappointed, and we did a 2-kilometer walk back to the train station, and my son disagreed. He thought it was a bit harsh. The people I've spoken to since still think I'm a bit harsh. But look, I just felt Leicester were there for the taking, and we didn't turn the screw. I believed that if we had to spend 20 minutes of that game playing like we did against Spurs in the first half, we'd have gone and taken a handy 2-0 win off them. But we just never went for it. Yeah,
I think that's true. And also, a team with a better striker, or a team with a better second striker, or a team with somebody, put it this way, you start Buendia gets that chance in the first 7 minutes that Bailey got, we're 1-0 up. And I suppose it's just, and I understand why Jared might play the odd bolter player, like he's played Sanson every so often, he's played Bailey every so often, and we malign him for not changing his team, but he has given people chances 15-20 minutes here and there, and maybe that's not enough to show what they can do, but he's going to have to find out what players he wants to keep around and what players he doesn't want to keep around as well. So I'm not maligning him for starting Bailey, but hindsight is 2020. Hindsight is 20, and Bailey wasn't rubbish either. He wasn't. He just missed a glorious chance. Missed 2 glorious chances, really. I think. The 2 best chances we had fell to Leon Bailey, and he just didn't work them. But low in confidence, low on game time.
He struck me as a player that was low in confidence and poor decision making on a number of occasions. And as I said earlier, you would have wanted that. You would have expected Leon Bailey on full form for that shot to fall at his feet, that he was going to just ping it into the top corner. But he just doesn't strike me as a guy that's playing at full tilt and at full confidence.
Yeah. I think that's going to do it, everyone. Apologies for being late, but as I say, we were enthralled in that Man City and Real Madrid game. And to be honest with you, we thought you'd all be watching as well, so we know we're talking to ourselves for the first 15 minutes of the podcast. But really appreciate everybody for dropping on. We're going to be back again tomorrow to do a Norwich preview show. Friday, I will jump on probably from an airport somewhere or something like that to do to do the press conference piece. Because I want to keep those. I actually found that I'm interested in them. If nobody watches them, I'm okay with that. But if we basically, if you didn't check it out, a little 10-minute video just discussing some of the bits and pieces that were mentioned in the press conference. And I actually think this is going to be an interesting one because Dean Smith coming back to town again, and also the questions about, not the questions, but the comments previously about young Tim, about Nakamba and about Bundy, I think are going to be interesting because I expect all those three players to be discussed in this press conference. So tune in for that on Friday again. And you never know.
Imagine, Neil, it could be the first time that we're both behind the same camera lens.
Yeah, maybe so. How are we going to prop up the phone is the next thing. But like these are the things we have to worry about. These are first world problems if ever you heard them.
We just lean it on the point.
That's it. Yeah. So we could be one of those podcasts we slowly see the phone slide down the point and it just hits the table and looks up at the ceiling. Yeah. So if you see that in the podcast on Friday, we make our apologies for it right now. But no, we will be back in tomorrow. Thanks so much, everybody, for tuning in tonight. It's nearly 11 o'clock. Everybody needs to go to bed here in the UK. Or just get up. I don't know what way people work that watch this podcast. So we're going to let you guys at it. Thanks so much for watching. Really appreciate it. Please give us a thumbs up before you leave. And as I say, we'll be back again tomorrow about 9:30 again, Paddy, will we? This time we'll be on.
Yeah, sounds good.
9:30. Okay, we'll just do our production meeting here in front of everybody. Keep us honest. So see you again tomorrow. Thanks a million for watching. And all that's left to say is up the Villa.
Up the Villa.